With our host, Dr. Jack Rocco. Dr. Jack, how are you? And you know what? We have some huge news with the Ultimate Men's Clinic, right? You keep giving
Yeah,
us updates. Yeah. What's going on?
it's been a great week. I've been spending my time 100% at the men's clinic now till I start my orthopedic gig back up again. But we're having great response from patients, um, and just a lot of confirmation that these things that I have been preaching, that men are alone, that men need help, that men are afraid. They're just coming out of the woodwork. I had a guy yesterday who responded to one of my posts, and he started talking to me about he's got some urinary retention going on, and he absolutely does not want to go the surgical route. So he starts talking to me about this. And at some point I, I think a lot of people talk about, men are allowed to have two emotions in the world. You're allowed to be fine or angry. The guys, two emotions are all we work with. So I start talking to this guy about his issues, and he immediately starts getting angry with me. I said, well, if you're having urinary retention, you may need surgery to route out the prostate. And he's like, "Oh, there you go again, trying to talk me into stuff." And I'm like, "I'm not trying to talk you into anything. I'm just giving you the physics. This is if there's a blockage in a pipe, you got to unblock it. And but then he starts going into, he sent me some text, and I sent it to you that he's hurt. He's lonely. He's sad. He's had issues with women. He's had issues with past relationships, and he just feels isolated and alone. And I think like a cornered dog. A lot of times, guys get into this like, I'm being cornered here. So you go into that, anger mode, that attack mode. It's a flight or fight situation, and I do think a lot of guys suffer with that. Um, just in general, I think my experience, as a man. I grew up, there was family, there were teams, you were always a part of something. Then I went to college, I was in a fraternity. In medical school, you had your buddies, you always had your crew. Residency, you had your co-residents.
Right.
It was always a team. Then you get out into the real world, and it's a lonely place for men. You're raising your family, you're doing your job, your friends, everybody is scattered to the winds and doing their thing. And of course, everyone wants to be positive. Everyone wants to be, yeah, oh yeah, I'm kicking ass. I'm doing great. Um, but the struggles that go on behind the scene are not always that neat. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of guys coming into the office, and they're comfortable being in a men's clinic, with someone who is talking the talk, walking the walk, and paying attention to men's issues. It's not you go into a typical medical office, and okay, when are your vaccinations? What are you this? What are that? What's your insurance? What do and you're like, what did your father do for a living? All that data that they try to gather on your visit. And then there's a small window of space that's left for what your problem is. And what I think that people are really responding to is the fact that, we're going to take our time with you. We're going to and we understand you. We know
Right.
the issues you're having with women, with your job, with life in general, with what it is to be a man, the expectations of a man as they start to turn into their 40s, 50s, 60s. And, there's little chinks in the armor that they try to cover up and try to hide. And the idea of expressing any inkling of a weakness, you know
Right.
what? Yeah, my reflux is killing me. I'm not pooping the way I should. I just can't eat like I used to. People don't want to, oh, my shoulder's killing me. Guys just they hide those injuries. And I've seen it my whole life, and when I was in the service, F-16 pilots, these are the biggest, studliest guys, you can run into. These guys are strapping a multi-billion-dollar rocket between their legs and taking off at Mach whatever. Um, they're macho guys. And if they have an injury, they have a problem, they don't want to talk about it. they want to just hide it. They want to cover it up. Um, and that preventative maintenance that, we all know your car needs, you all know the engine of an F-16 needs, but you won't apply that same logic to your own internal engine, your own,
Exactly.
wellness, and the first thing we do is just it'll go away. It'll go away. It'll
Hmm.
go away. And then you get busy and you got bills and you got responsibilities and you got a wife, you got kids, you got family, you got her family, your family, and you're supposed to hold this all together while you're falling apart on the inside. And where do you go? You know, you don't have your friends you don't necessarily have your drinking buddies, your golfing buddies anymore, as life moves on. So it's hard. And that's what I love about, the idea of the men's clinic and the response that we're getting from patients. They're calling me on my cell phone, they're texting like, "Hey doc, thanks, I got the results. I'm doing great."
Right.
I'm seeing great results with the patients and that makes it all worthwhile.
That's cute. That's huge, man. That's the
Yeah,
big thing that you're able to see that, and it's for just men. That is the powerful thing, and you're not controlled by the system.
right.
That's the other
We're a,
thing.
we're
So,
a,
to
we're
give
a,
me an example of controlled by the system, when I have been utilizing AI to kind of put all my tests in and all these different things, and I can't wait to go to the doctor and ask specific questions. They're like, "Well, that's not my job. My job's point you here, point you here, point you here." I'm like, "What was this experience like?" You're not going to do that, Dr. Jack, when they go into the Ultimate Men's Clinic, are you?
right. I get, I've been on both sides of the fence, and I'm still on both sides of the fence. I'm going to be working in a traditional orthopedic office, doing traditional orthopedic things. And I love that. And a part of me really misses that, but I also understand, I'm constantly apologizing to the patients, like, "Doc, I need an MRI. I've got this, I can't lift my shoulder. I'm working for Penelec, the electric company. I can't pull my shoulder, and these guys are most of the time these guys are buff. They have a very specific problem in their shoulder. They've got a rotator cuff issue, they've got a problem, and it needs to be fixed or it needs to be addressed. But then you try to order an MRI to confirm, you can't just jump in and do surgery anymore. So then you have to send them to 6 weeks of physical therapy. You have to try, anti-inflammatories. And all those things have side effects, and guys get fed up with it. They're like, "I don't have time to go to therapy. Are you kidding me?" I personally don't have time for a lot of issues, to take care of a lot of my issues. You go to work, you're taking care of everyone else, you're giving everyone else 100% of your effort, as you should, as a man. I mean, it's our job to, we were told from the time we're born, give 110%, 120%, and then you do that for everyone else, but who's given any time to you?
Right.
And then you go to the system that is supposed to be designed for it, and they put you on another hamster roll, hamster wheel. Well, you got
Yeah.
to do therapy. You got to do this. It's giving you more obligations. And don't even talk about mental health. You want me to see someone to talk about my feelings? Get out of here. I'm not allowed to have feelings. Are you kidding me? Um, and that's I guess a lot of I've told people this before is that I'm designing this clinic for me, what I would need if I needed a clinic, and I think what I need is what a lot of guys need. You need someone who understands the male mentality, the alpha male, the guy who's working, the guy who doesn't have time for all this. Hey, I would love for you just to give me a personal call and say, "Hey, go get your blood work. I'll call you when I got the results and we'll come up with a plan." So it's an integrative approach to um, work healthcare into your lifestyle, into what it is on a day-to-day basis. And in healthcare, we are the servants. It is a service industry. I've always said that it's a service industry. We don't make widgets, we provide service. But it has become, the system has taken it over so much that it has become a widget salesman. You,
Yep.
you, you sell MRIs, you sell blood work, you sell pharmaceuticals, you sell surgery, you sell hospital admissions, you sell braces, you're selling all these things based on the person's problem, the patient's problem. And, you know, you're not really serving them as much as they are serving you as the medical industry. You are the fodder, you are the material that they need to order the MRI, to order the wheelchairs, to do this and that. They need someone to come in and complain so that they can get the wheel turning of medicine, get the wheel churn and burn. But are the patients really served by this? Many times they are. I don't want to be complete down on medicine because there are miracles every day. But the hoops that you need to jump through to get these things finished don't have you in mind. They have the system in mind. The
And
system,
then will the system ever be fixed?
you're way outside my pay grade now at that point. It's such a behemoth, but I'm not trying to fix the system. I'm just trying to fix my little corner of the world. You know what I mean? If I can fix Neil Haley's problems, if I can
Yeah.
fix Joe Schmo's problems,
Yeah.
I got, and that's where you get the satisfaction. Said, we're all, we make decent money. I'm satisfied with my income, but if I'm doing something that I'm not really getting any internal satisfaction from, why am I doing it? You know,
Right.
the money doesn't go to me anyways. The money goes to everyone else. I'm not working for money. I'm working for everyone else. The kids, the ex-wife, the school loans, the bills, the insurance
It
companies.
all goes through, it goes in and out, and then where
Yeah,
did
I
it
mean
go?
everybody else gets the money. It's not like I'm,
Yeah.
I still get my $4.50 for a breakfast and you know what I'm saying? Like
No, I get it.
it's the purpose behind it and the satisfaction behind it. And I said it, this patient that called me yesterday, he was kind of angry with me last night that I was trying to, talk him into something. I was just giving you my opinion. You called for my opinion. I'm going to give you my opinion. You may not like it, but you've asked for my opinion. And after 30 years of dealing with this stuff, I may not have the only opinion, the best opinion, but I've got a valid opinion and it's worth listening to. And by this morning, he texted me again and he's just like, "Hey, thanks, man. I've just been hurt so many times by doctors. I don't trust doctors. I don't trust women. I just keep to myself anymore." And it's like, I really feel for that guy. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
here's my cell number. If you need to call me or text me, I can guide you through it. But if I tell you something, it's because that's what you need, not because I'm trying to profit off you. I don't make a dime if you go see another doctor. But I think the principle of I think it'll pay for itself. There are ways to have the company make money without, cannibalizing the patient as your fodder.
No, 100%. I mean, I love the focus, and that's what I'm trying to say is that it's a different doctor's experience going to see Dr. Jack. That's You're giving the ultimate
Right.
men's experience
That's what I want to,
at the
and
Ultimate
we
Men's
need
Clinic.
staff, we need people, we need expansion, to do this because I think there's a lot of guys out there who need it. They're sick of the traditional system. Since I've started this, I've had people come out of the woodwork who want to help. You know, I've got a buddy from Altoona who's a urologist. He's like, "Jack, do you need any help with that? I'd be glad to help you." I got a pulmonologist and sleep medicine doctor who was my roommate. He's like, "Dude, I love this idea. What do you need? I'll help you out." There's guys out there who are on board with this. Anytime I talk to a guy about the idea, I mean, they get it. They drink the Kool-Aid before I have to feed it to them because these are all the same guys that are dealing with the same stuff. It is so common, the struggle that men are having with their health and just in general in today's environment where every male is a toxic narcissist and you're guilty before you even open your mouth. So, you know, you come to the Ultimate Men's Clinic, we get it. We'll help you through. We'll help you navigate through. You may not like the answers I give you, but I'm going to give you an answer that's based on what's best for you, not what's best for the company or the system.
All right. Best place to go is the ultimatemensclinic.com. Appreciate it, Dr. Jack. We'll talk soon, brother.
Thank you, Neil. Love you, buddy.
All right, that right back at you. You're listening to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show, and the